I'm going to be going over what altcoins I hold in my long-term portfolio. After some speculation and no small amount of demand, I'm finally going to reveal where my positions lie. So, if you're excited to learn what I've got in my private holdings, like and subscribe down below, and let's find out just where I'm allocated. Now, guys, before we jump in, got to cover a few things. Firstly, I want to wish those who celebrate a belated happy Thanksgiving. I hope your day was filled with family, friends, food, and no political drama. Before I dive into these altcoins, I want to tell you, I'm not here to convince you. I'm not here to show you these bags, and I'm certainly not here to convince you to buy these tokens. I'm not promising you they'll go higher, not even promising you that they won't go to zero. I'm just going to let you know where I'm positioned, and maybe that will help you in some way. I'm going to be intentionally vague. I'm not going to go deep into why I think these are good tokens because you need to go do your own research. You cannot rent conviction. You need to have your own conviction. And if you go out and you buy a token because you see some YouTuber talking about it or that they hold it and that token dumps 30%, you're likely to sell and take a loss because chances are you don't even know why you're in that position to begin with. So if any of these tokens seem bullish to you and you're thinking about maybe getting involved, please go do your own research. Now, let's jump in. We're going to go over this narrative by narrative. Let's start with DeFi. This isn't in any particular order. I'm not going to tell you which are my largest positions. Well, I'll tell you what my two largest positions are. And when we get to them, I'll tell you. But other than that, I'm not going to give you percentages. I'm just going to tell you what tokens I have in my bags. So first off, in the DeFi narrative, we're going to go with Aerodrome Finance. Why Aerodrome? This is the leading DEX on the Base network. Base is a layer 2 on Ethereum. And just for the simple reasons that I cannot fade Coinbase. I can't fade the largest centralized exchange in the Western Hemisphere. They're teamed up with the Trump administration. They're a big part of the Fair Shake Super PAC. They're helping draft legislation, and they are in it for the long haul. Any protocol, any DeFi, anything that really has to do closely with Base, I want to be a part of that. That's bullish for me. So I hope that makes sense. Secondly, in the DeFi narrative, I got to go with Cetus. I think Sui is going to be one of the leading layer ones in this bull run. I think, as Raul Paul said, one of the best trades you can make in a alt season is identifying the layer one that's early in the adoption curve. Being able to nail the layer one trade of a cycle is one of the best things you can do financially. 2 cycles ago, it was Ethereum. Last cycle and earlier this cycle, it was Solana. Went from like 2 cents to like $200. And so if you look at where Sui started, I think 40 cents. It's at like $1.50, all-time high of around $4 or $5. I'm not even sure. Very good multiples there, I think. And so I got to go with Cetus. I know they had an exploit earlier. They came out. They were very straightforward with it. I don't think they're scammers. I don't think they're bad people. They just got, they got exploited. It happens. I'm still bullish on Cetus. So as I mentioned, Sui, layer 1, very bullish. Some of the ex-developers from Facebook, they were actually involved with the team from Aptos, and they all those guys worked together, as far as I know, to make a blockchain protocol, and actually got like banned or something like that. So these are ex-Facebook developers. They're very tapped in. They're developing. They're making good partnerships. I'm bullish on Sui. I think they're going to be the top layer 1 performer of this cycle. Now, the next token in the layer 1 category has got to be HBAR. The thing that impresses me most about HBAR is their governing council. Now, as we all know, layer 1s are validated by nodes. They work together to reach a consensus about the state of the network. HBAR is very unique in that the people or the organizations that run their nodes are some of the largest, most successful, well-known companies in the world. I think they had Google on there at one point. They have Dell and just really big names, universities, companies, conglomerates, etc., running validator nodes for the HBAR network. That makes me very bullish. And if you keep up with Dr. Lehman Baird, awesome guy, veteran, I think of the Air Force or Navy, very smart mathematics professor. I think he has a PhD. So I'm looking at the team. I'm looking at what they're doing, the kind of the caliber of people and organizations that are involved. I got to play some chips in HBAR. And so lastly, in the layer 1, I think it might actually be a layer 0, is Constellation DAG. Now, Constellation DAG, I think, is the only blockchain network that's actually working with the Department of Defense. Some of their developers or team members actually have security clearance. They're working with the actual Department of Defense and military branches to build out a secure blockchain. As we all know, The US has fallen victim to some data breaches from North Korea, Russia, China, wherever, Iraq, Iran, whatever. That is driving them eventually, I think, towards blockchain to secure data, to secure their networks and their information. We're entering the information warfare age. I think the next war that is fought is not going to be fought using guns and kinetic weapons. It's going to be fought using data, the internet, something like that. So very bullish on DAG and what they're doing. I got to have some chips in there. Now, the next category I want to go over is real world assets. I think this is one of the most bullish categories because you have the entire financial system, I think, inevitably moving on chain. And that's even what the new SEC commissioner has told us. And so stablecoins, tokenization, bringing assets on chain, this is going to be a big part of where blockchain thrives and is actually very useful. So I'm very bullish. And so first and foremost, got to go with Ondo. Ondo Finance has a rock star team. They even have the former chair of the House Financial Services Committee, Patrick McHenry, on their advisory council. I think he's like the vice chair or something. That screams very bullish to me. They have some big players working with them. And essentially what they're doing is helping average people buy tokenized treasury securities. And so this is democratizing access to U.S. treasuries, a safe, fixed income asset. They are working with some of the top players in the space. They're working with some of the top people in the stablecoin space. Very bullish on Ondo and what they're building. And I think there's a reason they've stayed soundly in the top 50 through this sell-off. So very bullish on Ondo. Got to have some allocation there. Now, another railroad asset play, I think it's a railroad asset play, it's got to be Chainlink. Crypto really cannot crypto without Chainlink. Chainlink is the glue that holds crypto together. If you go to Sergey Nazarov's LinkedIn, you see the caliber of people that he's connected with and who comment on his articles and who he interacts with. High caliber people, presidents of countries, central bank chair people, presidents of nations, presidents of companies. Very bullish on Chainlink. I think it's going to be one of the best performers in this cycle. I've heard some people say that the token doesn't have utility. I'm not really sure. I'm watching the network expand and proliferate. My tokens represent my participation in a network that's gaining rapid adoption and expansion. I'm excited on that. Got to have some Chainlink in my portfolio. Now, next up is Aether. Now, what Aether does, they have a unique business model, and that's another key element to most of the projects that I have. They're businesses that eventually are going to have some sort of revenue generating model that have real clients and are solving real problems. This is how I approach my investing. You may have a different thesis. Again, got to find your own conviction. And so what Aether is a decentralized GPU cloud computing platform. Essentially what they did is they went out and they bought tons of GPU processors. And if you need some GPU processing power, you can tap into Aether and essentially rent some of their GPUs. And so different companies or developers that need GPU horsepower can go to Aether, get their needs met, and pay them a fee. They actually have some pretty solid revenue from the last I checked. Very bullish on Aether. I think it's wildly undervalued. I think it's going to perform well. It doesn't mean that it will. It doesn't mean you should blindly ape it. So please do your research. Now, guys, the last in the real-world asset narrative, I think it's a real-world asset, is Alchemy Exchange. Now, you're looking at the chart. Doesn't look great. I mean, to be honest, it doesn't. But that doesn't bother me. I do not look at price as the ultimate indicator of value. If I see a project that's doing good things and is gaining adoption, I'm bullish on that if the price is lower. It means I can get more tokens. You notice it's only got a 5 million FDV. I think a rapid repricing is due at some point. Now, what Alchemy Exchange does is they're in the Web2 advertising business. If you're a company and you want to deploy a digital advertisement through traditional Web2 rails, you're losing about 50 cents on the dollar. What Alchemy Exchange does is they allow people to deploy digital advertisements for a fraction of that cost, maybe 3 to 5 cents per dollar they'll spend. With the ads being deployed via the blockchain, they're much easier to track, they're easier to manage, and it's easier to keep, and it's easier to understand how your ads are performing. Everything is based in truth, not trust. They're already working with some of the biggest companies like Facebook, Meta, Pokemon, you name it. Go on their website, check them out, see what they're up to. They also just recently merged to Sui. They were a layer 2 on Ethereum. They were actually the largest layer 2 by transaction volume, roughly 10 million transactions per day. And you'll notice that's a theme in my portfolio. It's got to have a use case. It's got to have a business model. It's got to be generating revenue. Got to have a docs team. That's how I invest. And that works for me. So moving on to the next narrative is gaming. I'm still bullish on Web3 gaming. Sue me. get mad at me, harass me in the comments, do whatever you want. But I think Web3 gaming, I think there's a real use case there. Maybe it's kind of in the dumps right now. That's, in my opinion, that's the best time to start buying. So anyways, first token on the list is Superverse for a couple reasons. First of all, I'm bullish on the umbrella kind of model. I'm not going after individual games because that's a big hit or miss. I know a lot of people made a lot of money on individual games. I know it was Decentralized, and then it was, I forget the other one that did very well. If you can nail it, you're going to win a lot of money. If you miss it, you're going to lose a lot of money. So I go with an umbrella, projects that are investing in multiple projects that are covering broad space within the Web3 gaming narrative. That's how I want to make a safer play in the gaming ecosystem. So I'm bullish on Super. They build and invest in different Web3 games. Ultimately, the goal is to connect everyone in the Web3 gaming ecosystem and help all the different games thrive and prosper together. That to me is bullish. I think it casts a very wide net. Also, you cannot ignore the insane marketing power that Elio Trades, Alex Becker, and Neo Tokyo have together. They basically are the Web3 gaming cabal. I think you'd be crazy not to place some chips on Elio's project, which leads me into my next token, Bytes. This is the token for the Neo Tokyo ecosystem. It allows you to buy NFTs, engage in their marketplace, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I'm betting more here on the narrative and the fact that Elio Trades, Alex Becker are some of the most influential crypto personalities in the space. If you look at Neo Tokyo and you see all the different gaming projects that fall under their brand, under their, whatever it is they're doing over there, it's insane. Anybody who's anybody is there. And so if Web3 gaming does take off, I think Bytes will do very well as a result of that. Sometimes you got to just make a play like this. I'll be super honest with you. I'm not even sure what this token does. No idea what it does. All I know is that Alex Becker, one of the biggest influencers, Elio Trades, he runs Superverse. He's very influential. I think the token's going to do very well. Say what you want about it. Again, I'm not telling you to buy these tokens. I'm just telling you where I'm at. So I think Bytes is going to do very well. Now, lastly, so this is a project that's very near and dear to my heart. This is my largest holding by far. Again, it's a $9 million valuation, so I think there's going to be a rapid repricing. They're building a very solid business, very bullish on the team in general, not only as builders and developers, but just humans in general. Their developers, I think, won back-to-back World ETH hackathons. Their top developer actually got hired by Coinbase, and then their other developer, who obviously is also very good, he is one of the two that won those competitions, he got promoted, and so now that person is kind of running the developer side. They had a pre-sale that sold out. I think it was like $16 million. That was back in April. They've been very smart, very sensible about their budget. The problem with a lot of gaming tokens right now is that they're burning through their treasury on CoinDesk ads or listings or whatever it is. Medicaid's been very sensible about what they're doing. And so again, what Medicaid is, it's an umbrella. It covers a lot of ground. It's a community-driven Web3 hub, bringing players and communities and builders together, helping everyone thrive and succeed. They also have a native game. It's called Gangs of Medicadia. It's a hyper-casual kind of, you log into your phone, you do some 5-10 minutes of activities, and you can win real money. People have won hundreds of dollars. There's thousands of dollars on the line each season of Medicadia. Gangs of Medicadia is what it's called. So it's actually pretty fun. Check it out. You could win some money. The buy-in is cheap if you get in early. It's like $5 or something. Anyways, Medicaid, very bullish on them. Check them out. Full disclosure, I do work for them, not as a paid shill, but I'm a market analyst for Medicaid. So they don't pay me to come here and talk about it. They pay me to inform their community about broad market movements. So just wanted to let you know that. Now, the second to last narrative that I'm invested in is DPIN, Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Network. I'm only invested in one token there, and it's Render. And so what Render does is similar to Aether. If you need GPU power, you can go to the Render platform and you can borrow that GPU. The difference is that you're borrowing it from other people. So me, for example, I have a pretty powerful gaming rig, pretty powerful computer, and I have a lot of GPUs that I don't use. If I wanted to, I could use those GPUs and lend them out to somebody and get paid back in Render tokens. And so the token is used to pay the GPU providers. So again, it's a business, there's incentive, and they're doing something that actually helps. And as the world becomes more and more digital, more and more cloud-based, and as more people want to do things that require GPU and GPUs get more and more scarce, I think a service like this is going to do very well. It's similar to Grass, where I'm not invested in Grass, but I think it's a good project. They essentially allow people to rent out their spare internet bandwidth. So if you pay for 500 gigabytes a month and you only use 2, you can rent out 3 gigabytes of internet bandwidth to other people. I think it's a good business model. I'm not invested in Grass, but if I was in my allocation stage, that's probably something I'd take a look at. So DePIN, I think, is going to do very well. I think it's one of the best use cases for crypto. Now, last but not least is going to be the AI narrative. And I think this is going to be one of the best performing narratives for a number of reasons, because it has some of the most practical applications. It's obviously a very exciting topic. NVIDIA earnings is something that basically moves entire markets now. There's the CapEx investment cycle that we're seeing that we talk about a lot in our macro content. And so it's only natural that an AI project would be bullish to invest in crypto. And so the one token on this list is actually one that I haven't invested in. Believe it or not, I actually don't own any AI tokens. But Tau Tensor is something that I really want to get invested in. I'm probably going to do it soon. So I think it's going to be the leading AI platform. It's kind of the blue chip AI project. I was listening to Jordi Visser, who's one of the best macro analysts in the world. He says that he has people, Wall Street people, asking him about Tau Tensor. And so again, you got Tau, it's number 32 here. I don't see, I think another one is Near Protocol. That's another big one. I think the founder in Tau is somehow involved, and like NVIDIA's somehow connected to Jensen Huang. Not really sure, don't own any. I know Chiron is very big on Near. So I'm bullish on Tau, don't own any. Hopefully I will soon. That's the portfolio. I realize that I have like 17 tokens, 20 tokens. I even have some tokens that I have like small amounts of that I didn't even feel like there's no point to tell you about them because they're very small positions, and they're especially small positions after this recent dump. Now, I would advise most people not to have this many altcoins. Honestly, I bought these tokens when I was a little bit newer to the space. I held them because I do have conviction, but in hindsight, there are some positions I could probably consolidate and be able to keep better track of my bags. Chiron actually said a pretty good piece of advice. You should spend about 5 minutes per day on your altcoins, keeping up to date with what they're doing, making sure the reason that you invested is still relevant and still applies. You may miss something and the token sells off, and the next thing you know, you're down 50%. You don't know why. So it's good to keep up with your tokens, good to keep up with your bags. Personally, I would recommend no more than 10 altcoins. Maybe get one from each narrative, maybe 2 and a couple narratives you think are going to perform well. That's how I choose to invest. I think this alt season, if we do get one, not promising that we will, I think we will, is going to run similar to others. You'll have excitement around DeFi, around layer ones, and then around DePIN, and gaming season, whatever. I plan to exit positions as the hype in their respective narratives reaches a climax. And so that's how I plan to invest. And so it's going to require me to keep a keen eye. This is what I do full time, so I have that luxury. A lot of people, you don't have that luxury. You're working, you've got families, you're taking care of your parents. I'm single, I don't have any kids. And so I have time to do this. This is what I do full time. So I can keep track of my bags. Doesn't mean that everyone can. And so I wouldn't recommend having this many altcoins. Again, 10, I would recommend max, because it's already 50 minutes a day if you spend 5 minutes per day on each token. So those are the bags. That's my portfolio. I hope that this has been helpful for you in some way. I hope maybe this gives you some interesting ideas about where to look, or maybe reinforces some conviction that you have in your bags. Again, please do not make any decisions based on this. Please do not buy these tokens based on the fact that I hold them. Please do your own research. I gave you very surface level, very, very basic reasons as to why I'm invested. Go out and build your own conviction. Go out and build your own investment thesis. That's the only way you're going to become successful. Trust me, I've aped into bags that YouTubers told me was bullish, and I went down like 50% and I sold because I didn't know why I was investing. But ultimately, that helped me grow as an investor. And so I hope this was a refreshing change of pace. It's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Most of us are still digesting. So wanted to do something a little bit fun, a little bit different. Maybe I'll do a portfolio update in a few months, let you guys know if anything's changed, what I'm bullish on, what I'm looking at. But for the most part, this is going to be a macro data-driven channel. Anyways, hope that was fun. Have a nice weekend. Happy Thanksgiving. Like and subscribe down below if you found this insightful. I usually do macro content for those of you tuning in for the first time. So go back and check out some of my other videos if you want to learn about things like the 4-year cycle, why I think this has changed, about why altcoin season hasn't come, what the Fed's going to do next month at the FOMC. That's the usual order of business. And we'll be back to that order of business on Monday. Until then, thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next video.